So Aranea initially qualified on his own. Of course, he was formerly in SK Gaming. He's now in the summer split with Alternate. The real question is, how is that rivalry going to kick off? For me, there'll be fireworks.
Welcome back, guys. We're just about to see Team Alternate to take on SK Gaming. But first, I am joined by D-Man to have a chat with one of the founders of NIP. It is Emil or Heathen Christensen. Can you explain a little bit more about how you're involved with the team, the League of Legends team right now?
Well, basically, I'm the owner of Team NIP, and I'm trying pretty much to help out the team as much as possible with like, how can you say, mindset for professional gamers, since I used to be one myself. And I mean, because obviously the guys know a lot more than League of Legends than me, even though I still play a lot myself. But I think the mindset and the will to actually win and overcoming some obstacle with your mind is probably the most important thing I can provide for them.
And obviously, you know, you've had some pretty major roster changes this week. It's safe to say. I know how involved you were with those, but I mean, how do you feel? What really started off in the first place, and what came about sort of the players you selected?
Well, basically, it's never fun. It's always the last option to switch out players. You never want to do it, basically. But I mean, even though it might look like something we just did overnight, this is actually something that has been growing for a very long time. We just felt like we need to do it now before it gets even worse. So that's the only reason for it.
And any reason the players you selected, any reason the guys you went for, was it, you know, obviously Deficio and Bjergsen stayed there. Did they have any preference over who they wanted?
Yeah, of course they did. I mean, all the top players pretty much know each other and know how good they are. And we had two of the guys in our roster as subs, and also we took in the third one for, you know, because both Bjergsen and Deficio really wanted him in the team if we're going to switch 3 players. So they are the ones, of course, pretty much choosing who they want to play with.
You've got, of course, tons of experience in the esports scene. What would you say are the qualities that you look for if you look for a player to add to a roster?
I would say, I mean, obviously, you need talent to be in our team, but I think the mindset and the will to practice, learn from a mistake. If somebody gave you a criticism, not just throw back and like, hey, you suck as well, and just do something and try to like take it into you and don't do the same mistake again. And obviously, really hard practice, because I mean, that's the only way you're going to win something is practice harder than everybody else and have slightly more talent.
And how do you compare the LCS these days, League of Legends, and esports in general, as compared to when you were active in the old CPL days, when you were in NIP, when it was the full CS team?
This is pretty much what I dreamt about back in the days.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
You know, it's like everything. It's thousands of fans watching it. I mean, it was like no streaming back then. Now it's like hundreds of thousands watching it. And that's like, yeah, it's like a dream come true for esport in general, because, I mean, I love esport, and this is really a dream come true. It's amazing.
Finally, talking about dreams come true, what are the dreams for this NIP team as we go further along the season?
Well, obviously, our goal for this year is to win the league. That's the dream.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Heathen. Thank you, D-Man, as well. Now, of course, we're going to be getting into our next matchup fairly soon. It is going to be SK Gaming as they take on Alternate. And we're going to get into that one with Joe Miller and Quickshot.
Thanks a lot, Shocks. Our third game of the day, Alternate versus SK Gaming. But before we kick things off, let's have a look at the team. Starting on the blue side with Alternate. And, you know, this is a team that are doing extremely well right now. I think the surprise package so far of the LCS, and of course they are Kerp in the top lane, Aranea in the jungle, Pharrell and Lord in the middle lane, and the duo of Creaton on AD carry and Jerry the support.
And I suppose it's different kind of surprise, but the surprise package of SK Gaming. Kevin in the top lane, Hercubot in the jungle, Ocelot in the mid lane, as well as Candy Panda and Nif. And I really don't want to hate on them too much because they have been steadily improving. With each game that we've seen them play and perform, it's a stronger looking SK, and hopefully that trend has continued.
Well, don't forget, guys, that you can actually still vote for who you think are going to win this game and the next ones. If you head over to lolesports.com, just click on the matches button and vote away. Trevor, what are the numbers looking like for this one? Last game was a 92% win ratio, I guess we call it, for Fnatic. It's not too different this time around.
Joe, you are so correct. 76% in favor of Alternate to 24% in favor of SK. Numbers are still heavily aside. That's almost 3-1.
Almost 3-1. You caught me off with that beauty of a stat there. But, you know, the High Flyers Alternate here taking on SK. And this is the second time, actually, that these two teams have met up.
Yeah, the first time that they met, Alternate look, they destroyed SK. Creatine got out of there with 0 deaths to his name. It was all the way back in DreamHack. Since then, Alternate have been continuing on those amazing performances, holding that first place, and outside of dropping 1 game to Gambit in Moscow, they've been undefeated across the board.
Yeah, SK Gaming, on the other hand, though, have already lost 6 games in the summer split. And to put that into perspective, that's more than half of the games that they lost in the entire spring split. So we can say they've been steadily improving here, but the numbers, quite frankly, don't lie at this point.
No, and it was a terrible, terrible start. You know, I said it already. SK Gaming, they've put some victories on the board, and, you know, while they're looking better with each game, it's still resulting in losses. So it simply isn't enough to turn the tide of that negative win-loss ratio around. They have had a full week of practice after Moscow, and all eyes are on SK because we're expecting Alternate to do well. We're expecting Alternate. 76% of you are expecting a win from Alternate. And everybody else is going, well, how's SK going to do?
Yeah, and it's a big question about preparation, I feel. They've had, week 1 and 2 we were on the road. We're at DreamHack for week 1, we're in Moscow for week 2. Now they've had time back in the house in Cologne, and everyone's, I think, wondering how SK have really gone about this time, what they've done with this 5-6 days that they've had since coming back from Moscow to get them ready to take on the strongest team right now, technically speaking, when you look at the table.
Yeah, and the man that was just on your screen to the right a second ago, Nif, I know what he's been doing this week, and it's been posing for photo shots. If you've been keeping tabs on it, in the boot camp when SK have been training and practicing, he's been showing off some new clothing and goodies and whatnot. And I hope that those photo shoots have not cut into their practice time. But I just know Nif is looking dashing as ever.
Yeah, and you can see there their manager Minsik also wearing a scarf, despite the fact that it's boiling hot here in the studio today. Obviously taking a note out of Ocelot's book there. But yeah, well, speaking of Ocelot and his book, that's something that they're going to have to rely on here as well, because he is the mastermind behind this team. He's the one that puts those hours into things to really set SK aside from the other teams. And so far, he's not found that.
No, he hasn't found the magic ingredient. You know, in the spring split, he was able to find what he needed to throw into the pot to at least make things work, make things pop, make things explode. And he's still been trying to find that, trying to get his mojo going. I think a Kazakh's ban against him is quite a realistic possibility. Even though 3.8 and some of the numbers have been shifted around and moved around, it's been his strongest performer champion in this split. Yeah. And we'll see just how well they've been theorizing and working. I know Ocelot is probably one of the most outspoken players, and he himself has touted, look, we needed to practice harder. We need to buckle down and get our heads into this.
Yeah, and I wonder if that really has been the only thing here for SK Gaming. I mean, this is a team that should, by all rights, be doing a lot better than they currently are. You probably look at Alternate and say they're almost the polar opposite of that right now. No one expected them, maybe apart from themselves, to be doing so well here in the summer split. And you can see they are, I call them new players. Obviously, they're new here into the LCS. Most of them have got a lot of experience when it comes to LAN, but some of them are still pretty fresh, but they're not fazed by it at all. They've made a brilliant transition to getting into the LCS and doing such great work at the start.
And something that you don't see off camera, that we have the pleasure of dealing with these players, between games, after games, during build-ups, in bus rides to wherever we're going. They're not overly arrogant. They're not egotistical about it. They are quite humble about the victories. They're actually very quiet, with the exception of Aranea, as you can see on screen.
It wasn't Jordan, that was a roar.
That was a Spanish roar. But, they keep to themselves. You can see they spend a lot of time thinking about the game. One of the things that keeps striking me about all of the interviews that all the players have done is that Alternate don't look internally for their competition. They don't look at Europe and say, we have to beat Gambit, we beat Gambit by doing this. They look across the seas. They look to Asia. They look to America, and they say, well, we know that person makes these mistakes. Let's not do the same. We know that person runs these champions. Let's try the same. And they're modeling themselves over arguably the strongest teams in the world, and that's, coming from the Asias.
That was a fantastic disclaimer. The strongest teams in the
Yeah,
world.
I realized what I was saying and had to sort of just dull that one back just a tiny bit.
Well, there you got SK, of course, on your screen. And in a little bit of turmoil, I think there's been a lot of talk about whether they're going to be sticking together here as a team, what's going to happen, from their management as well, very much outspoken. So this is really an important weekend, I'd say, for this bunch of 5 players on the SK roster, because something needs to change, and hopefully this week of preparation that they've had has been what they needed. Ocelot did say we need more training time, so we could very well see a very different SK Gaming today.
For a team like SK as well, if you do look historically, they do have a history of replacing players. They do have a history of saying...
Ask Aranea.
Exactly. They have this track record of, if somebody is underperforming, or if they feel there's a weak link in the team, they are willing to change that link. They're trying to rebuild the chain with what they believe is stronger. And that's just sort of how the team goes. They've stuck with this roster for a while. It has been performing for the most part when it matters. But at the end of the day as well, even if you look at the spring split performances, they still were not consistently toppling the top teams. They were not consistently taking out Fnatic, Gambit, and EG across the board. So we'll see now if this extra week, this added pressure of all eyes on them, not only from the community, but from management, from sponsors, it can make or break you as a team and a player.
Well, we're going to be getting into Champions Select here in just a second. Apparently, Kerp's having a few issues with his trackball mouse, which, some of the players bringing up a good point there. Does Kerp have a spare mouse pad?
I don't think you need one. He may have a palm. He may have a palm pad to rest his hand while he rolls a trackball. My personal favorite from the chat was Jay Ree referring to it as the trash ball.
The trash ball. Well, he's gone a long way to prove that so far in the summer split.
Shen's going to be banned against him. There's no ways SK are going to let Shen through. With Alternate being first pick, I'm pretty confident that happening. And talking about picks and bans, hopefully we should be jumping into the bans and the picks very, very shortly.
And as if by magic, there they are. Bans coming in already. Kassadin and Evelyn taken away by Alternate so far. Twisted Fate is gone. There you see Jerry having a bit of a dance on your screen as well. Twisted Fate, of course, is a big one for Eleanor.
Yeah.
Nunu aimed at Aranea in the jump.
Yeah, and he's been he's been a big threat with that Nunu. As once again, we are on 3.8. It's the newer patch. He's actually a little bit stronger now than he even was in the previous patch. And I think he was banned out of 12 games out of whatever it was last weekend, but it was a very, very good percentage of them.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Shen is still left open. And I think this is Alternate's way of saying, look, you either ban him or we pick him. And I don't know if giving Kerp Shen is the right decision. I mean, this is going back to IM Kiev last year, going, why are you not banning Shyvana? Why are you not banning one of the linchpins of the Ultimate team? But, hey, Kerp Shen is back.
Look at Aranea in the background there, laughing and literally doing this. I don't think they know why they've managed to get Shen here, being the first pick, with Alternate having the first pick, I should say. We'd expected that to be banned.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, though. That's going to come through, and it looks like Elise and Sona will be the first 2 picks for SK.
So I anticipate this Elise to go up in the top lane against Shen. It is a pretty good matchup. Even though Shen does build some ammo and can deal with some damage, we've seen in the past, I distinctly remember Soaz's Elise destroying Darian Shen about a week or 2 weeks ago. So it is a matchup we've seen before, and it does play in favor. Nif on a comfort pick. He's got Sona again. So another very powerful champion that if SK are going to fall back to their roots, fall back to what's comfortable for them, it's a smart pick.
See, and this is, 2 more picks that we've got coming in here from Alternate. Lee Sin, Aranea was brilliant. You got compliments from Diamond Procs, which, just on a regular day is hard to pull out. But when you're talking about Lee Sin skills...
I don't know, Diamond Procs are pretty comfortable on my shoulder on the taxi ride.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that. It's slightly disturbing, not going to lie. And Lissandra as well, which is a champion that Forellenlord brought to the table and honestly was so impressive with.
And in the exact same previous game a moment ago, Nukeduck's Lissandra was very, very... Zora Zero's Lissandra, sorry, was very good. Early game, he was winning out his lane. Mid-game, a couple of questionable moments. But as we got to the late game, he just zeroed in on that Tristana, on the AD carry, locked her down with that ultimate over and over and over, and just provided all that disruption. What you do have from Alternate, though, is slightly opposites in terms of their ultimates. They don't necessarily 100% combine. A good taunt with a good frozen tomb from Lissandra is very powerful, but then Lee Sin kicks them all away, and you sort of go, well, now what do we do? But if you were having Aranea playing like Insect and using the kick as an initiating tool, as that single target out, jump to a ward, boot them backwards, then it works perfectly.
Which he's been doing really well as well so far in the games we've seen him as Lee Sin. Final 2 picks then here for, in fact, we should probably step that back a little bit because SK here, Ocelot and Candy Panda locking in the Orianna, a comfort champion again for Ocelot, and that Xin Chao for the jungler Hercubot.
And of course, going back to again, you know, when I think of Orianna, it's actually Ocelot from last year's regionals.
Exactly.
Gamescom, EU regionals, and just pretty much decimating everybody with it. So he needs to rechannel that performance. And we've seen some very, very good Orianna plays for the entirety of this. I mean, even if we go all the way back to the promotion tournament where Pharrell Lord himself had the famous 3K ELO one. The one thing that is still missing for SK Gaming now would be their, because they've got their jungler, RNA is going to be mid laner, Kevin's going to be top, so they've actually saved their AD carry for last. And this could be a reactionary one. They might go for an Ezreal, which would be a safe pick against their opponents. They could even go for a Tristana if they felt that the knockback was important. But it's very interesting to see SK for the first time in a very long time leaving their final pick not for Ocelot.
Yeah, that's something that they've done, you know, regularly and almost as a rule actually coming into Champion Select. We did see Vayne and the Nami pick in there for alternate. We've already seen Creaton's Vayne before. We've seen Jay Ree, who for me has been one of the more impressive supports, if not the most impressive support that we've seen up until now. And we know how clutch that Nami can be.
So Thresh being banned out against him was thanks to the performance that he put in with Vayne and Thresh. You know, we comboed with Creaton a little while ago. It's going to be slightly different in that you still have the ability to save your teammates with good bubbles and things along those lines, but we'll see just how well Jerry performs because against Ezreal is very slippery. But if they catch Nif, that's just going to be insta-kill potential over and over and over. You get the on-hit slow, and it's deceptive how much damage it deals because the E from Nami, in conjunction with the tumble damage of Vayne, in conjunction with the Silver Prox Bolt, that is going to be very, very hard hitting against Sona in these early levels of the game.
Yeah, those Silver Prox Bolts definitely going to be very, very dangerous. Sorry, I don't usually do that, but thought I'd call you out on that one.
I deserve that one. I deserve that one.
So we are going to be jumping into game here then, and well, as you said before, and you guys all know the story, it's top of the table versus bottom of the table here. SK are in dire need of a victory here this weekend. Probably, if we're being honest, dire need of 2 victories this weekend. But this is certainly would be a great starting point for them to take down alternate. And one thing we've not really touched on, because it's a story we've talked about before, is the whole Aranea thing. If there's any team that he wants to beat, it's SK Gaming.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama and heated emotions and feelings when Aranea was released from the team towards the end of Season 2. And, he settled in with Alternate relatively quickly thereafter. And from there on out, he's been putting in amazing performances. I actually tweeted out about this particular match a couple days ago saying, I feel sorry for the people in the audience because things are going to get very loud very quickly. Aranea and Ocelot are loud players, and when they make good plays, they are going to be letting everybody know about it.
So here we go then, into game. Alternate on the blue side versus SK Gaming on the red side. Are we going to see any early action? Of course, in our first game of the day, we saw a crazy level 1 fight, which was, there was that Nami in there. Obviously, it didn't quite go their way, but something tells me that SK might end up playing a little bit safer here. And as I say that, look at the minimap, and it looks like they could go for something.
Yeah, so it does look like Alternate, the power of the Aqua Prison at low level, in conjunction with the power of a Shadow Dash taunt from Kerp. If you think to the level 1 from Moscow, where Kerp got a 4-man taunt against Fnatic and managed to set them up for 3 kills for 1, it worked in their favor. However, it may end up just being a swap right now, as SK, they've snuck themselves into this lower bush. The fact that they have vision advantage and positional advantage means if Alternate move forward, they're in trouble. But instead, they're actually just going to walk over a ward, and all of that is just basically for deep vision. They grouped up together, got the wards down, and went, we don't really know, and they backed away.
Yeah, we'll see if Aranea actually starts down on that red side, which would expect from him, to be honest. Obviously, we are playing on 3.8 here, if you didn't already realize. And you see there a bit of a pink ward battle going on. So, and just to touch back on that there, the jungle changes obviously implemented here for us in week 3.
Yeah, so of course, all the standard mobs are going to be spawning later in the game, which means that we're most likely going to be seeing more of these 2v2 setups. We're not going to see the lane swaps because they're less if you do a 2v2 setup, you're less impacted on the red side by the additional or early level advantage of your opponent. And it's exactly what is happening. Both teams pretty much starting off with the camps as best as possible. AD carries helping out their respective junglers. But very, very importantly, the blue buff is being stolen away by SK. Thanks to some of that vision they had. They realized that Alternate were moving on to their red buff, and a very good early steal from Hercubot and the rest of SK.
Yep, nice little start for SK Gaming here. And do we have anything else interesting? Pretty standard stuff in terms of what all these players have picked up early on. We can see that Hercubot is just going to be backing off towards his red buff after stealing that balloon. RNA is not actually going to know here that his blue buff's gone.
No, he's not going to know, but he will be able to get there in time. He's going to reset the little vision icon once he realizes it's missing, and it's going to respawn at a normal time because the entire camp was taken. The moment we see Nif and Candy Panda getting a lot of good poke down, and that's actually the blue buff was taken by Candy Panda as well, so he's going to be able to spam out all his additional abilities. The one thing that's going to be interesting to note once we get to team fights is how important Jay Ree's tidal wave will be, because there's a lot of mobility for SK, you know, knockback, speed up, knock away, jump up, etc. So if a good tidal wave holds him in place, Alternate are going to be able to control team fight, but if not, SK should be able to get to safety.
So here we see Hercubot on the hunt for a possible first blood here against Forellen Lord. Not an easy champion to lock up, but down in the bottom lane, Creatine taking a lot of damage. There's the Aqua Prism coming out, and that will manage to hold Candy Panda away, but Alternate struggling in this bottom lane.
Yeah, barrier burn, so Summoner Spell down just thanks to those cooldowns and the ability to spam. Candy Panda has double the CS right now, though. Forellen Lord positioning himself over to the side, getting closer to Aranea as possible, and of course he doesn't need a flash over a wall. Kerp taunts up Kevin, and it's just going to be some trading back and forth for the time being.
A little bit of trading in that top lane. Don't expect there really to be any kills going down without the presence of the jungler in that top side. Bottom lane may be different though. We've seen that Candy Panda and Nif coming out very, very aggressive here at the start. They want to get that early advantage that you always want to get when you're facing a Vayne.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was about to point out. Normally when you have a Vayne in your team, you want to swap to the 2v1 lane, allow your Vayne some free farm up until level 6, 7, 8. Just cross some of those item thresholds. At the moment, there was a very big CS difference between Candy Panda and Creatine, but with the wave being at Creatine's tower, he's keeping it within touching distance, and that's the most important thing right now.
Now we see them once again backing off to do golems. This is something that they've already done here, leaving the lane once it starts to push through, and then picking up that extra experience in gold, whilst then, hopefully for them at least, getting back to the lane without missing any of those creeps to the tower.
Yeah, so at the moment they're keeping relevant on levels. It's a level 3 Vayne who's getting pretty close to level 4. So, you know, this next probably Canyon Minion plus 2 more should be enough to do it. They're staying relevant, and the only thing that they need to do is just keep up, because if they keep up, you'll see that eventually J-Re and Creatine will actually be able to out-trade Sona and Ezreal just because of how much damage Vayne is able to put out. Right now, though, Kerp is pushing this wave up a little bit. Hercubot, level 4, red buff just wore off. So the on-hit slow is not going to be there, and that might be vitally important in holding Kerp in place.
Well, he's actually going to get the knock-up here on towards Kerp, but he'll be safe from this one. Kerp literally does nothing about it there. Started with that Doran shield, a lot more beefy than you'd expect at this stage of the game, and he will be safe. No problem there.
It was the most anticlimactic engagement I think we've ever seen. It was basically a high-five moment from Hercubot onto Kerp. Aranea sniffing around, not able to make an impact before 5 minutes in this game like he did against Fnatic last weekend. But we've seen what he can do with Lee Sin, so just a matter of time. He also likes to build those sight stones, so likes to make those big high mobility plays.
And really impressed so far with what we've seen from Candy Panda and Nif. They're a bottom lane that you don't initially think of as being aggressive when you compare them to other teams, but they've certainly come out, the blocks flying on this one. There's Forellen Lord actually wandering through the jungle of SK, and he's going to try and make an impact on the top lane.
So he has level 6. Kerp on Stand United has level 6 as well. There goes the dive, the path comes in, they're going to slot down Kevin, there they go.
Here we go, it's surely going to go down here. This is looking like it will be first blood, and it is Forellen Lord that picks it up there in the end, and Well, Kevin, to be honest, was very, very slow to react to anything there.
Yeah, that was all too easy. Kevin was hoping to repel some of the damage. He was in human form when the glacial path was coming across. He swapped his spider to repel up. Right now, Candy Panda's gone in.
Yeah, Shen going to get involved down at the bottom here as well. And Candy Panda, is he going to be able to escape this one? Creatine is actually burning here. One more auto attack from Nif will finish it, but Nif might pay for it with his life here. They decide not to chase as Hercubot was coming down. They spotted him with that ward, and we'll be finishing that with a killer piece.
Yeah, so well played there. One of the things that happened that ended up costing Creatine his life, Kerp tried to taunt up Nif, and Nif actually flashed the Shadow Dash taunt. It put him in range of Creatine's Vein just to get that last little auto attack down. So they trade 1-for-1 at the end of the day, but the kill did go onto the support. That's not 100% ideal in this setup. 2-for-1, and that top lane engagement, it was too easy. Alternate jumped in there, they clicked, and unfortunately, Kevin died.
Yeah, not quite able to react to that one here as Ocelot going to have a big wave pushed up against his turret. He is 6 CS or so behind. That will obviously be all leveled back up by the time this wave has gone down. Lord going to be getting himself the blue buff. So obviously that was stole on the start of the game by Hercubot. So they're going to get that one secure this time around.
Yeah, and he's probably going to try keep better tabs on it as this game goes forward. Something that Alternate have done very well in all of the games that they've played this split is react as a team and move as these sort of 2, 3, 4-man units. If it's a solo laner, the jungler will be there to help. RNA has been so present on the map these games and in all these matches that plays into their favor. Creatine and J-Ree right now have swapped to this top lane, and I think it's because Creatine was feeling the pressure of Candy Panda's Ezreal. He wanted to go back to a 2v1 lane and go, well, look, let me get closer to 100, 120 CS, and then once I get a Blade of the Ruined King picked up, then I'm willing to fight.
RNA there, just moving himself up towards the red buff. We'll throw the Q out there, which will have alerted Hercubot to his presence. In the end, that red buff had already been taken away. No smite use from that one. As Candy Panda getting taunted up here underneath the tower, and that's a very dangerous position. And we've said it before, we're not quite so sure why Kerp got Shen in this game. We're not sure why it got let through. As Frenlord going to go in here. RNA coming around the side. Shockwave was used. RNA going dangerously low here, but he will be finished off. There's Hercubot coming in. He may just clean up himself. There's the heal coming around. Sona steals a kill from him. That's one that Hercubot could have probably, or would have been very happy to have. But in the end, it's 2 kills for 1, and that's a good trade.
That was a brilliant shockwave from Ocelot. He was under the pressure of 2 members of Alternate, and just before he got locked up in that tomb, he managed to pull both of them together under the tower. That damage plus Ignite, and obviously the assistance of Hercubot, was enough to pick up at least a 2-for-1 trade in that particular situation. So well played there. The pressure is still on as Creatine and J-Ree have now built up a very big wave for Kevin to face in this top lane.
We'll see how he deals with this one. Alternate should be getting some free damage onto that tower once again. It's already down to less than half HP, so that work has already been put in there early on. But this is going to be the first tower of the game.
Now, at this point in time, one of the things that's been very interesting for me is the wards around Dragon. So with this tower going down, we've seen both J-Ree and Nif moving in and out of the Dragon Pit. You can see them down again, clearing out wards over and over and over. SK will put another ward down. Ultin will put another ward down. SK will clear it. Expect, once that tower falls, that Ultin will begin to collapse around Dragon to try force that objective.
Kerp up to 65 CS and 101. He's almost got that Sunfire Cape finished here after just 10 minutes, which obviously makes it a lot harder for SK to have an impact on him in this bottom lane, even in that 2v1. Right now, they're going to set themselves up, though, for a Dragon attempt again.
Now, if anybody's going to be able to steal a Dragon, RNA is definitely one of the most likely. Kerp is down on the bottom, looking for Lord in the middle. The Dragon is still being pulled up, though. Lord does have his ultimate up, so he can jump in at any time, but this is going to be a 3 versus 4 at best. Vayne and you're missing. There's Lord.
Lord, it could be in trouble here. There's a brilliant shockwave again coming out from Ocelot. But have they got the pace to get in? Stan United going to come down on towards Lord. That will keep him safe. And in the end, no kills happening. The Dragon, of course, wasn't taken either.
No, that's very, very important because now all of a sudden, Alternate, they had the numbers advantage, but you can see that Nami and Vayne are moving back up towards the top lane. They've caught out Kevin. Is he going to get caught in the bubble? He's stunned.
Oh, is he going to get knocked up? No, not quite there. And almost connected with the wall there with that condemn from Creaton. That could have been the death of him.
I don't know if being a different human or spider form will affect the distance to getting stunned, but he just missed it. If that stun had connected, that would have been a death. End of story. You would have been caught by the Aqua Prison. Right now, there's Aranea.
Oh, they've missed a few ultimates
But
in
they
there,
caught
but
for it.
Forellan Lord was... I'm not even sure what he was quite doing there, to be honest.
Maximum range on the Crescendo. Absolute maximum range caught him out.
Oh, he actually hit him, did it?
Yes,
I
he was just stunned at the absolute tip. Just went in and managed to lock Forellan Lord up. With his death and the damage they put down on the rest of the team, SK have now got a free dragon and will pick it up after a pretty prolonged dance, because there was a lot of wards, a lot of vision going back and forth. At the end of the day, with Kurt and Jerry being nowhere nearby, it was free for SK Gaming.
I'll apologise for to Nif saying that he missed his ultimate then, because, well, he missed it on Aranea.
Yeah, it wasn't his target.
That's my fallback for that one. But good stuff here. SK, of course, now taking the lead in kills and in gold. 800 gold is the difference that they have not got any towers under their belt at this point, but Candy Panda, he's starting to farm a lot. If you compare that to Creaton, they're pretty much bang even right now. Got that BF sword in there, but it looks like Creaton going the other way and straight in towards that Blade of the Ruined King.
So we'll see once that gets completed how aggressive he decides to play, because against an Elise, against a Xin Zhao, you're going to be able to use that active just to help put more and more distance away from you and control the tempo of a fight. But very interestingly, the fact that Candy Panda's got the BF sword, it implies he's not going to go that blue Ezreal build that we've been seeing over and over and over. I actually think it could work against a Vayne, because you can outrange you, you can control the speed at which he chases you. And it doesn't feel like he wants to, as he's been caught by Creaton.
Creaton's going to go head-to-head here with Candy Panda. Actually, the wave coming through from Nami will pretty much save Creaton's bacon there. Hercubot was coming down to help with that one as well, so bit of a crazy engage down on the bottom lane. Neither AD carry wanting to get drawn too far into that one, and no kills resulting.
Had Hercubot not been around, Creaton would definitely have continued that chase. He had the ability, he had that Hunter in the Night, his ultimate on gives him that big boost to his movement speed when chasing enemy champions, and he would just would have carried on chasing him down, but wisely decides to back off. What do you see for Lord? He's picked himself up an Abyssal Scepter as his first item on the game. Only got that Doran's Ring. And that's quite interesting on Alessandra, because her mana costs are quite high. Curb's moving in, he's not going to steal the red buff.
Pretty close, though. I think if it had been there half a second earlier, you might have been able to get that one off with a Vorpal Blade, since Hercubot didn't have his smite available for that one. And right now, Alternate got some deep wards down inside the SK jungle and looking to maybe catch someone.
That's an Aranea ward, and the reason I point that out, he's within range of Safeguard. So if anybody walked over the distance of that ward, he would have jumped to it, kicked somebody back, and that would have been the initiation tool. That would have been the let's pick a fight moment. I still remember him kicking somebody back and Jerry landing a hook on a target flying through the air thanks to that Dragon's Rage kick. True Shot Barrage gets fired up. That's to help clear the minions in the mid wave. We've got a bit of a slower game on our hands right now. Less ganks and less action, except now.
Except now we are going to see Stan United coming down. Nif going to get stunned up here. He's trying to get away from it, but a max range taunt from Kerb coming out there. And they've hardly lost any health in getting that one through. The Crescendo was used, the Flash was used. That's a great pickup for Alternate.
And we actually see no pressure in the middle. Ocelot.
They're going straight in towards Ocelot. He's not escaping this one. Aranea coming in, but for Elnor's damage was enough there all alone pretty much to finish that one off. And that's going to be a turret here as well for Alternate.
Crucially, no hesitation from Forellan Lord either. The Frozen Tomb came down the instant he was within range, so Ocelot never got the chance to pull them towards him and get all that damage down. They managed to pick up the tower in the bot lane, while Hercubot is going to get the tower in the top lane. So they end up trading 3 for 1 as far as towers are concerned.
Yeah, that's not the best trade ever, to be frank. But look at this, there's a 5-man Alternate now down in the bottom lane, and SK have to reply to this one, otherwise they're going to lose this in a turret. I can't see them getting there quick enough for this one, and that is a very fast move from Alternate.
Right now, SK Gaming need to make a play. They've been reacting to Alternate, and they've been picking up kills here and there. They've picked up a tower thanks to reacting to the pressure on the bottom lane. But unless they're the ones landing a Crescendo, landing a good shockwave, they're not going to pull ahead in this matchup. Nif, it's a very good ward down, reveals Forellan Lord's position, but his Crescendo nor his Flash is available. And Nif is actually, he is a Flash Crescendo kind of support. So always got to be aware of that once we get later into this game.
Right now, SK looking to reply with this. They've got a 4-man squad of their own pushing down. towards that bottom tower. And in the end, it's actually a 5-man, I can't count. But yeah, pretty much every player now in this bottom lane, which suggests that there might be something about to kick off there.
Not quite sure what gives you that idea, Joe Miller, but with the minion waves here, maybe that's the signal to go. They haven't got it stacked up. The taunt does get missed. Here comes the tidal wave, and here comes Forenalord.
There's a shockwave on towards Aranea. He's falling dangerously low from this one. Kerp not super healthy either, as Forenalord actually goes straight into the middle of them, pops the ultimate on himself. But is he going to die from this? He's burning with the ignite. Kerp is going to fall as well, and SK managed to pick up a 2 for 0.
Simply put, Alternate were 2 split there. SK backed off. They peeled exactly like they needed to. They made a half moon so that none of the AoE abilities could truly hit all of them. And once that Frozen Tomb was down, they re-engaged. They recommitted. Kevin did so well with his rappel. He flew up into the air. He waited until he knew where Forenalord was going and then pounced right on top of him with that spider form. Tower number 2 picked up for SK. This is going to be tower number 3. And if anything's available in the jungle or the dragon in 30 seconds, they're going to have prime position for it.
Very strange part of the game that there was like all 10 players down there with 17 minutes in, 10 players down in the bottom lane. Alternate go in, but kind of half-heartedly. Forenalord himself, dove straight in the middle of the pack, put the ultimate on himself to, basically the mini Zhonyas that Frozen Tomb gives you. But they weren't able to follow up then with enough damage.
And basically, the reason Forenalord did that is because Kerp dove in there first. Kerp dove in and tried to get a taunt. The taunt was dodged by Candy Panda's Arcane Shift. He didn't get locked up or caught out. And I think Kerp forgot Forenalord wasn't playing Orianna. Because if there was an Orianna ball on top of his head, it would have pulled everybody together. To be very fair as well, Ocelot's ultimate only caught Aranea. It was off a little further north. Nobody was really grouped up tightly enough. And because Alternate's composition needs you to be stacked for it to truly work, it meant SK got away with it. Right now, Dragon is up. We have a couple members of Alternate around. Stand United is available for Kerp, but I don't think they're going to challenge. And now Arena's in trouble.
They may lose Arena from this one. There's the crescendo coming out just to assist. It's Kevin that picks that one up. Now Hercubot getting locked up here inside of the Aqua Prison, but he may just be able to follow through for this one. There is the claw coming through, not quite able to grasp him, and that will be 7-5. Meanwhile, Kerp in the top lane is split pushing.
As only a Shen can, and we're seeing Kerp do his traditional build as well. Hex Drinker second. It's something he's been doing over and over and over with his Shen. Maybe it's the way you should be building Shen. He's been caught out by a very good Cocoon. And Kevin's just going to be happy to farm up the wave. So Dragon, though, did go the way of SK and they maintain that gold lead.
Yeah, certainly not a bad item to have, even if it is his normal build. As we are going to see Candy Panda being chased down here by Creaton, gets stunned against the wall. Creaton didn't have vision of him because he was stunned inside of the brush. Candy Panda trying his best here to juke him, but he can't really match the damage of that Vayne with that Blade of the Ruin King and a Zeal now on top of it.
No, not at all. Candy Panda did relatively well to keep in and out of vision. Right now, Creaton, he flashes it.
Flashes away and actually starts to turn around there on towards Ocelot, who himself decides to back off once that shockwave was flashed away from. And again, crazy stuff going down in that bottom lane. If we look at the CS and the kills between the two AD carries, it's a bit of a scary thought for SK Gaming because this Vayne has got more CS, has got more kills as well.
Vayne is always going to do more damage than an Ezreal will the later this game goes, and especially if she starts getting a little bit more fed. With that Cloak of Agility picked up now, that's going to be working towards the Phantom Dancer as well. And once a little bit more damage goes on, there's not going to be anybody that can sort of one-shot or can out-duel her, rather. But if she is caught by a Shockwave or a Cocoon, that's going to be enough time for them to kill her, and that's what SK are going to be relying on. Land the CC, get a Shockwave, get a Cocoon, focus her down, and then win the team fight.
Aranea there just went in to get the race. Good job he put that ward down because both Nif and Hercubot were both coming in his direction. Right now, just throwing those Qs out there. Does have a ward in that top brush as well, but needs to be careful not to overextend from this one. He actually drew 3 men from SK pretty much up to him there to try and push him off, and will back away from that one. So if you look at the minimap, lots of wards down actually all over the place. SK in particular have got massive ward control of their own jungle on that top side of the map.
One of the things that also means, that's costing them gold. If you look at the side of Ultimate, they have 2 Ruby Sightstones on their team. So that's 2 champions with up to 3 ward charges per champion to litter around the map. Every single red dot that you see on the defensive side, near their red buff, near the Baron, that's 75 gold worth of investment. So this very, very small 1,500 gold, thing is basically being spent towards, even though NIF does have that ruby, it's one less than their opponents.
One less than them. We can see the amount of gold earned by each player there, and actually NIF doing well if you compare the two supports, 5.5 to 4.2. Then again, he's got 3-1-3 right now.
Well, that's another good thing as well. If that 3-1-3 had been on Candy Panda's Ezreal, when the duel had occurred with Creatine, having that additional 1,000 gold worth of damage statistics, because he got Creatine pretty low. If he had an extra 1,000 gold, maybe another pickaxe, maybe a completed Phantom Dancer or similar, maybe he could have been the one to win the fight.
Well, right now, RNA is waiting to go through, actually lands the Q, and that's a signal for NIF to just back the hell away from that one. Doesn't want to get jumped on by RNA and then kicked out to the rest of the team. Shen doing a normal Shen thing, which is pushing down this bottom lane here. Kerp now up to 140 CS currently. Candy Panda actually being the one that's drawn away from the rest of the team to stop that.
Yeah, even though Lee Sin was able to land that Sonic Wave, the Lee syndrome of immediately following it in. You get that itchy trigger finger. Let me go, let me go. But wisely, it was a little too deep. NIF was immediately running back to his second tower. So again, this is just a matter of vision. And right now, SK's vision is much superior. They're going to be able to make much more informed decisions about where their opponents are. And basically, because they have to respond to the split-pushing Shen, they need that vision. They need to be able to run through their jungle and not run into a Lissandra, Vayne, Nami combination.
Well, right now pushing in for Unload, actually going to dive straight in on top of him. Aranea is there as well. The damage coming through as a tidal wave will rock SK, and now they're in all kinds of trouble. The bubble will land on towards Hercule, but who's going to be the target after that one? They don't quite have the damage here, but now Creatine's joining in. There's a kill for Aranea. That's 2 men down for SK. They've lost for Eleanor, but Creatine now getting right on top of NIF. He's not going to escape this one. He's shut down, and now Candy Panda the one that's going to be turned on. Jerry needs to land one more bubble. Well, he did just before that, obviously. Now on cooldown, yeah, being chased down there is Kevin, but he's got a good old repel to get away from Kerp.
3-for-1 exchange. The fight started out with both teams not having their AD carries. Candy Panda was near the bottom lane. Creatine was near the top lane. Because of the amount of burst that Ferenlord has, plus that sort of safety net of his ultimate, that was able to buy the rest of his team enough time to get in there. Tidal Wave hit 4. Kerp stands united, kept him alive even longer. And then basically once Creatine and Candy Panda were in there, SK were already losing the fight. And you're never going to outrun a Vayne. She will chase you down. And that's basically exactly what happened. At this moment in time, that's all Alternate needs to do. They need to wait for SK to just go a little bit past the safety. They have no outer towers and no inner towers on the top and bottom lane. And Alternate can just go, well, we'll react because we can chase you way more effectively than you can chase us.
Oh, Ferenlord may just catch NIF out here. He's got a little bit too far away. He's going to lock him up. There's another max range taunt from Kerp. And Ferenlord picks up another kill, and they're not done just yet. They're still going to go chasing through here. Kerp was maybe thinking about going straight over the top of the wall. He puts a ward over to spot the team.
And because of the kill they just got, they're immediately going to fall back, take Dragon. They have defensive wards in the jungle. Ferenlord will push this wave out, and this will put Alternate on the board as far as Dragons are concerned. I think this is their first, and I believe SK have had 2, if memory serves correctly. So that's going to at least start to close this gold deficit. And all of a sudden, they have the lead. They have a 500 gold advantage over their opponents thanks to 2 team fights and 1 additional Dragon right now.
And we see Kevin actually very ballsy play, stealing away the blue buff there as that Dragon was taken down on the bottom. Alternate out with the Oracle for Jerry. Going to be clearing out around that Baron area as well. So Alternate may not be too far away from at least starting that off to draw SK out.
It's a very important thing to point out, because if you look at Ferenlord's build, he still doesn't have any form of mana regen outside of that Doran's Ring. And, like I said, Lissandra is a very mana-intense champion. Even though her passive will give you sort of 1 free spell cast every now and again, you're talking 85, 50, 90, 100, 280 mana for a full combo, 1 of each spell, and she needs to get more of them out in a fight. So with a relatively small mana pool, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be more on Ferenlord to control his mana pool in these upcoming team fights.
Right now, SK is trying to work their way in onto that outer middle turret. Not got much health on it either. A couple of hits from Candy Panda would be all it takes. But, you know, that Ezreal, not got the biggest range in the world, and you always face the danger of that Lissandra jumping onto you.
And he's building the phase, he's building towards a Trinity Force. We have not seen a Trinity Force Ezreal probably since Season 2. I mean, I'm hard-pressed to think of an Ezreal that performed that in the LCS or a top-level play later than the end of last year. Right now, though, it does seem like SK, they're feeling brave. They see that Kerpers in the bottom lane. Stand United is available, and they do not have Kevin. Kevin is moving from the top lane themselves, so this would be a 4v4, and I think they need Kevin. But that's good damage from Ocelot.
Yeah, Ocelot putting a lot out now that he's got that Rabadon's death cap with him. As Kevin and Hercubot and the rest of SK, for that matter, are now moving in towards this inner top turret. They're going to be trying to take this one down, and I don't think Alternate can reply.
That was great play from SK. They simply out-positioned their opponents. They poised as though they were going in the middle, but here's an engagement. There goes Pharrell and Lord Frozen Tomb. He's been stunned.
Shockwave comes in onto him as well. Aranea and Kerp are both with him there, but Pharrell and Lord going very, very low. Will get finished off here by Ocelot, and I don't think between Aranea and Kerp that they have the damage to finish these off. They are going to see another man dying. Kerp will try and flash away. Now he gets chased down by Candy Panda, who's actually got no mana here, and he'd have to be looking for that Phage slow, if anything, to really control him. Creaton here going to get jumped on by Kevin. He sinks his fans in there. Has to use a barrier as those Spiderlings go skittering onto him. And that will be, in the end, a 3-0, and SK got perfect position now on the Baron.
Phenomenal fight. First and foremost, Kevin and Candy Panda completely zoned out Creaton. They kept Vayne away, they kept his attention. Then, Nif managed to land a crescendo the millisecond that Pharrell Lord reappeared. He followed in with that glacial path. He appeared after the claw, and as he was about to get his ultimate down, he got stunned. He ate all the damage, and he was forced to use ultimate on himself, not on a target. So that additional burst damage that comes down from the Frozen Tomb wasn't there. Perfect fight from SK. They got the tower, they got kills, they got Baron. They're in the driving seats.
So let's see what Alternate are going to decide to play this one now. Pretty much with their backs against the walls after losing that Baron. If you look at the gold, SK now 4,000 in the lead, still ahead in kills. They're all level on turrets, and if you look down the individual gold, it's pretty close in some retrospects, but in some areas it's really not that close. I mean, Chuck Kerp and Kevin, for example, 2,000 gold, over 2,000 gold, they're the difference between them.
That's a massive number, and it's starting to show in these team fights. The previous engagement was very much in favor of SK. Alternate tried to make a play happen, and I think overzealousness, overconfidence maybe in their ability to land their spells cost them that fight, because they didn't need to throw themselves in it. They didn't need to pick a fight into the fog of war, you know, into their opponent's defensive position. So Alternate will probably need to just press that pause button, slow things down for a little bit, and once Baron wears off, maybe they can react. And actually, Candy Panda stole that with a very nice Mystic shot.
Nice and cheeky. Kevin pushing that top lane out here as well. And we talk about, you know, the split push potential of the Shen, but Kevin here with this Elise has done a fantastic job of making sure that that top lane is constantly pressured here. And they have to be careful about that, because they can't afford to lose that inhibitor in that top lane. That would be a perfect start to things for SK.
Both sides also have very good tower diving teams. If you have Hercubot, who's got a fair amount of armor and HP, he can dive into a team with Command Protect on, land a good shockwave. Follow that up with True Shot Barrage and Crescendo. That's instant team fight win in a matter of seconds. You have a similar situation with Pharrell and Lord or Shen. They can dive under a tower and pick a fight, but because Alternate are defensive, they need to be way more afraid of it. They cannot afford to stack up. Take a look at the bottom lane tower on the inhibitor. Kevin has got a minion wave there, along with those little Spiderlings of his, while the rest of Alternate try to fend off this mid lane.
Yeah, having to come across to deal with this one here. Kevin, in the meantime, is racking up those creeps. 250 right now, compared to 189 of Shen. And we see where that 2,000 or 3,000 gold difference is starting to approach, where that's come from. Also, the 4-1-1 also helps out a lot as well. And it looks like he's going to be stealing away another blue.
Well, that's 2 blue buffs in a row, and again, I cannot stress enough how important that is against the Pharrell Lord. Against the Lissandra. Because Lissandra really does need a lot of that cooldown reduction, a lot of that mana. There's no additional CDR in Pharrell Lord's kit at the moment. He's got 3%, which he's got from his mastery. So you know, it definitely plays into their favor to keep control of that buff. SK going to pick up a tower for completely free, and then probably turn their eyes to the bottom lane. There's a big minion wave there, and maybe start applying pressure.
Yep, Dragon is also available here. That's a very realistic target for SK. Every little bit of gold is going to be healthy. As Candy Panda seems like he might have to solo this one. The rest of his team like, you got that. Don't worry about that. He can take down that Dragon, and they will be backing off. And I can only speculate, but I'm guessing that they've got a lot of gold here now, SK. That's a lot of wave that they've pushed off. Managed to take down the Dragon as well, so they're going to be all headed home here to buy.
Yeah, the slower pace of the game is because of the fact that their pants are all being held down by the amount of coins in their pockets. So now that they're going to go spend this money, we'll most likely see tier 2 boots being picked up by Candy Panda, maybe even Nif at some point. At the 32-minute mark, to see them both with only tier 1s is quite interesting. But that is, of course, because Nif is going to start putting some points into that Song of Celerity. He get additional movement speed that way. I really like the pickup of the Locket of the Iron Solari because the burst damage that's going to come from, you know, the kick from Lee Sin, from his executability, from Pharrell Lord, it's a good protection for your entire team. So very smart pickup there. Whereas J-Ree, he's decided to go challenge. He wants to spam bubble, bubble, bubble as much as possible.
Yeah, see if they can catch someone and pop them. So, right now, Alternate taking as much as they can from their own jungle before the imminent SK push comes back down onto them. They don't want to be losing any more than they should really be giving away. Right now, SK themselves are making sure that this top side of the Alternate jungle is going to be warded up as well. Baron not going to be too far away.
Dare I say it, this is the first time this split, with the exception of Gambit, that Alternate had been playing from behind. This is another position that Alternate are not going to be as familiar with on the stage under the lights, because Alternate have been the driving force. They've been setting the tempo, making the plays, and all of a sudden they realize they're behind. I think they'll know that they've got a goal deficit. They'll know that obviously the Baron is worn off, but now they've got to figure out how do we reclaim control of this game, and it's probably going to be one of the playmakers. It's going to be Aranea catching somebody or Pharrell Lord catching somebody that will set off the trigger of events.
You see right now, Kerp just going to be matched by Kevin in that bottom lane. I don't want to let too much be pushed up with that Baron coming up here pretty soonish. And the one thing that we always talk about with SK, and I feel like we said it about them more than most teams, is that they have struggled to close out games where they've been ahead. They have thrown away leads that they've had. So now against a team like Alternate here, as you said, they've not been really in this position much before so far in the LCS, but they've shown that they can win games against these top teams, despite the fact that SK, without a doubt, as a five-man team, have a ton more experience than Alternate.
Yeah, the one thing that Alternate does have, though, is they were a million billion gold behind the Giants, and one Shockwave was able to bring them back into it. I think in the deciding game against the Giants in the promotion tournament, they were 12 or 15,000 gold down at that point, and they managed to hold out. So that'll at least give them some hope and some faith. I think for SK, they really need to figure out where their engagement comes from, because until one of them actually has the bravery, Kevin or Hercubot, to dive in there with that ball on top of their head to deliver it into their enemies, there's little else that SK can actually do. Their sieging potential is relatively null. There's good wave clear from Alternate, and they don't really have that we'll just sit at your tower and bore you to make a mistake kind of composition.
Well, speaking of that, we do see Shen pushing, as we always see, in this bottom lane. And slowly but surely he's pushed further and further and further up that lane. So SK finally sending someone back there, Hercubot in this case, to make sure that that is going to be stopped. Gives it a perfect bit of time to look through the items here, as that Baron's going to be started. Really just want to look at the AD carries, because that's the interesting one right now. Last Whisper, Phantom Dancer, Blade of the Ruined King done. On the other side, actually, Aranea, wow, almost going in there. Took a lot of damage, and it looks like the fight's actually going to go in for this one. That Fail Flash does come in there, as you see, great crescendo coming down. Why is Pharrell not being involved in this one as they get bounced around? There is Pharrell Lord finally getting in on top of it. Doesn't use his ultimate in this fight whatsoever, and Alternate have already lost 3 men. Hercubot going to come over the wall. Ocelot now on the killing spree, and that is a 4-for-0 for SK.
The question is, do they want the inhibitor or the Baron? They actually can get both. Pick up the mid inhibitor, roll back. Simply put, Alternate were out of position. Aranea tried to make a play happen, took so much damage from the Orianna command attack and command dissonance. His HP got dropped. He was no longer relevant. J-Ree tried to flash to safety. He face planted to hit the wall, and then unfortunately found his death. And a very, very good play for SK. They stayed grouped. They waited for a mistake from Alternate. It wasn't under a tower like I was thinking it might be, but they caught them out in the jungle and managed to, pick up a good win.
Right now, that Baron spawning in. We have pretty much a freebie here for SK. Forellenlord might try and be cheeky here from the side, but he's got to be quick to get in there. The Baron's going to go down before Forellenlord can get anywhere near it.
Yeah, he had his flash, he had his ultimate, he had everything available, but simply put, there was just too much damage coming down. Elise is pretty good at taking down Baron with all those little spiderlings in spider form, plus the skittering frenzy. He does a lot of extra damage that you sort of forget about. And right now, it's the second Baron in the game for SK Gaming. A massive creep wave here for Ocelot. That'll give him a good chunk of change to clean up. And basically, SK Gaming will shop, pick up the items they need, and then re-engage. Now they'll siege. Now I think they're going to feel powerful enough to be in a position where they can sit under Alternate's tower and say, right, now we'll bring the fight to your front door.
Alternate not scared here, though, of pushing out, and they're looking to catch someone off, and that may just happen for them, as not quite. The Spiderling comes into the brush, spots them putting down that ward.
Yeah, just short of actually really getting anything advantageous. Candy Panda with that Lost Whisper picked up. We were talking about AD carry items before the fight happened. Trinity Force collected, Lost Whisper collected. So with his passive and the Trinity Force, it'll give him, respectable attack speed right now. But one of the things that we definitely want to keep a close eye on is whether or not in the dueling situation, he actually can use that range and the additional movement speed of his Zeal to try stay away from Creatine, because Creatine went very aggressive in that previous fight.
Candy Panda just did something completely weird there. We saw him taking the red buff, and he left one of the lizards up, actually. You saw him, like, kind of go, did I kill it? Did I actually kill it? And he didn't, so that's not actually going to be respawning for him here. Bit of strangeness going on, but we're talking about a red buff here for almost 40 minutes into the game, so probably not going to be the biggest thing in the world, but you never quite know what's going to turn things.
Yeah, it's going to completely delay the spawning of the next one, so at the very least it's going to be a pain in the butt. Right now, though, with the super minions in the middle wave, we'll most likely see SK Gaming. They should move to the top or the bottom wave. There's a very big minion wave pushing in their favor against Alternate. So they're going to allow the minions to do the pressure for them, group up maybe towards this top lane, and basically just pick another tower to focus down. I'm not a big fan of using the same wave of super minions to apply your pressure, basically because they can do the work for you. You allow them to control the map. And I think SK are realizing that as well. With Kerp in the bottom lane, he does have Stand United. It's just a matter of time before they start bashing away on this turret.
Look at that shield as well. Very tanky Hercubot, taking 0 damage pretty much from that tower. We are going to see them now wedging themselves in there to try and take the tower down. Already got it to below half HP.
So we'll see how quickly that goes down. Forellenlord takes a massive chunk of damage. True Shot Barrage, he does manage to sidestep it, but he's forced to recall. That's going to be the second inhibitor of the game. SK picked that up through poke. They put all that damage down, just landing a couple of skill shots, and it was picked up for free. Kerp is now way out of position, so he either needs to recall and get to the fight late, or SK are just going to pick up another tower for free.
He's actually going to recall now. So SK start to take the jungle, and I was saying about the red buff, and Candy Panda gets himself alternates anyway, so he's going to refresh that one for later on. What other items have we seen being picked up here? Void Staff now with that Seraph's Embrace, Rabadon's Death Cap, Morellonomicon, and a second needlessly large rod in there as well for Ocelot. And we just saw there the damage that came out onto Forellenlord. What damage, what amount of damage he can do.
I'm not as impressed by that yet because it's only 854 ability power. It's not quite over 900,000. So we'll get to that point soon enough. But the one thing that's definitely showing from all of SK's practices is look at their vision control again. Keep very close eye on just how many dots are scattered across the map. They want to know every single move that Alternate make. The minions are streaming, conga lining onto this bottom lane, and look at the damage on Kerp. That's their tankiest member who's lost 40% of his HP from 2 combos. And look at Forellenlord. At the moment, this is Ocelot's game saying you will not pass.
Yeah, Ocelot did a fantastic job as we are going to see the tidal wave coming out here as Kevin going to use his Zonya's Hercubot going very, very low. There's a fantastic crescendo coming around the side here as well. And are they going to be able to finish off? It looks that way. Kirby's going to fall. Forellenlord and Aranea making a quick, desperate attempt to get over on towards the fountain and get that heal, but they're going to lose a Nexus turret. The second one will fall here with Candy Panda. In fact, 5 men from SK there hammering away on it. Forellenlord and Aranea are pretty much the only 2 here to stop it. But SK are going to take it down, and they beat the league leaders, and that is the start to this weekend that Ocelot and his boys needed.
That is the best way that they could have kicked this off. SK Gaming, they lost the early game. They were behind a couple thousand gold for a prolonged period in that particular matchup, but they bounced back. They never gave up. And the one thing that I think they did better than any other game they've done so far, vision superiority.
Yeah, that was a very different SK Gaming to the one that we've seen in weeks 1 and 2 at DreamHack and in Moscow. And, well, you can't take that defeat lightly at all, because that was alternate. That is the league leaders right now that have just lost a game to a team which you almost wondered where their next victories were going to be coming from. They were so hit and miss in those previous 2 weeks, but that's what they needed here. They wanted to show their fans that they're not down and out of this one, that it is a, it's a long season coming in, and 2 weeks definitely doesn't dictate how the rest of the season's going to go for you.
And very, very importantly, every single one of those team members stood up. Every single member of SK Gaming had a moment in that game where we went, wow, that was great. That was a good move. That was a good escape. That was a good engage. So it wasn't like one person buckled down and carried everybody. That was a real team effort. And it showed, they were losing early. They bounced back. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, apparently that week of training that SK have managed to get in for them this week around has really made a big improvement on their game, and they needed it, quite frankly. This is a team that aren't only expected to do well, and they expect themselves to do well. They're so ambitious. Ocelot, as the leader of that team, wants to win games. He's not there to mess around. He's not there for the money. He wants to win the matches.
Yeah, he wants to be the best in the world. And the only way you can do that is by winning, by beating everybody else consistently. The one thing I do want to point out, though, Alternate, they also had moments of greatness, but they weren't quite as aggressive as we have seen them in the past. One of the things that I loved watching from Alternate and from MYM in weeks 1 and weeks 2 is that they weren't afraid of their opponents. They didn't care who you were, where you were. They tower dove, they invaded, and for the most part, it worked off. This time around, I don't think we've seen quite as many aggressive plays.
And that's the thing that we pointed out in the first week 1 and 2, that these newer teams were a lot harder to research for the existing LCS teams that managed to stay through into the summer split. And with those 2 weeks now there and a host of VODs to watch and to study how Alternate and Meteor Makers and the likes of them are going to be playing here, their time of playing so amazingly well and pretty much destroying almost every team that they got their hands on may be over.
I wonder if not having Lee Sin in the jungle and going with the Hecarim would have been a better solution for them. Lee Sin, notorious for his early game ganks, notorious that if he doesn't get ahead early, he doesn't go anywhere. It's a very sort of one-way street kind of champion. Had Hecarim been in the game, the Ultimates would have been able to disperse the members of SK Gaming. And they were playing pretty dispersed in the team fights anyway. They were controlling themselves well. But if they had that horse rampaging in, fearing them away, and dealing that AoE damage, I think that may have suited the composition more, in my opinion. But it's definitely something we'll have to chat to Aranea about at some point, because I didn't really feel the impact, the Spanish insect that we've seen in previous games.
Well, the Shen as well got through. Coop did a fantastic job on him, though. We saw some very max range taunts coming out from him, doing the split pushing that you're expected to do when you get that Shen in there. But not to be for Alternate. SK Gaming managing to pick up the victory. We're going to head over to Jason, though, to break down the game.
Thank you, Joe and Quickshot. And yes, we're here over at the Weatherman screen, and we have one replay to show you in particular. It was a fight actually around the blue buff from Alternate, as we'll get that on your screen very shortly. It was a very controversial fight where if Alternate actually did win that fight, they could have gone on to win the game. And because of this fight, SK actually ended up going on to take the Baron, as we'll hopefully get on your screen very shortly. But SK, it was a phenomenal job by them to actually come back. As you saw in the voting, no one really expected them to win. We do have the replay on your screen, so we'll show you right here. As we're going to go into it, but if we pause it right here real quick, we see for Elnord, he's going to go for an engage. And actually, he's going to come in about right here, and because of that, Nif is in position for a perfect crescendo on top of him, not to mention Ocelot, who comes in with his Orianna ultimate to really lock him down. Also, just to mention, on the minimap, you see currently Creedon, he is down over towards his top inner turret, and you're going to see Kevin and Candy Panda in particular push him out of that fight, and because of that, he isn't able to get in there. Let's go ahead and start the replay up again, and just kind of show you how it develops, because for Elnord, he unfortunately just gets locked down here, and his ultimate, it's meant to lock down a squishy member of SK, but he gets shut down right there completely. He almost escaped because you see a nice taunt come out of Curb, but he ends up going down. Cretan gets knocked down to half health from a Spiderling. You're going to see Arnea end up dropping, and in the end, from this replay, actually we do round it up, they get 3 kills, they get 2 turrets, and they get Baron off of that, and SK just taking a giant lead because of that. And they ended up taking the game, so very well done by SK. It was a match that honestly no one really expected them to win, but they pulled it out, and congratulations to them. But in the meantime, we're going to head over to Shox, who has an interview with Minsik.
Thank you very much, Jason. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I'm here with Minsik, who is the team manager for Team SK Gaming. Now, Minsik, you decided to take the word here instead of one of your players. Why is that?
Actually, like the last 2 weeks in the LCS, it showed that our performance wasn't the best. And right now, I want my players only to focus on the game and nothing else. And we want to keep it calm. So just focus on the game. Just focus on the next tomorrow against Fnatic. We just want to focus on that one and nothing else.
So where does it go from your perspective when they have been in quite the turmoil and then they come out here, they give Alternate a lot of their picks and destroy them actually at the end of the game?
So on Monday when we got back from Russia, we sit together as a team with the management, with Alex, our boss, and we were like discussing how we should approach this week. And from Tuesday on, we had like a strict schedule, like training schedule. And I mean, picking bands, like we kind of knew what they want to pick and stuff, and we had an idea about like picking Elise and just pushing back and stuff. So it kind of worked out for us. So,
of course, I have to ask you, it's not because they had one win that SK is entirely in the clear, and we recently seen NIP changing up 3 of their members. So what's in the future for SK Gaming?
So like there are no specific plans like switching players or whatever. So I mean, this week showed it that if we practice and like do our best, like have a fixed schedule, like how to approach the week and how to approach opponents, and we are actually capable of beating any team in the LCS. And that's something we want to show. Like we want to show consistency within the league, and that's only possible if we have like a strict schedule.
All right, thank you very much, Minsik, and congratulations once again on a great victory of your team. Now, Gambit Gaming had a phenomenal run in Moscow and is currently on a 6-game winning streak. Can EG keep them from making it 7 wins in a row? We will find out in our last match of the day in a couple of minutes.